A very good evening to you. Welcome to another episode of Man Up. This is where we have conversations with men about issues that affect men, and we try and come up with solutions that we can offer to the men, so that we are not just talking about the problems, but we are also giving solutions. This evening we have a very sensitive but important topic that we want to get into. We want to talk about men and suicide. Men and suicide. When you look at statistics globally, more men die of suicide than women. In fact, it's about three times more men die of suicide than of women. And we are wondering, why is this the case? Why is it that more men take their lives more than women? Even locally, here in the country, statistically, the numbers still have a similar kind of average, that of the people who commit suicide, 3/4 are men, 1/4 are women. Why is that the case? What are some of the factors that lead men to commit suicide? And is it possible to know that somebody has suicidal tendencies, and what help can they get, especially the man? This evening, I've got our live studio audience as usual, and we also have a panel of guests who are going to help me dig into this conversation. First and foremost, we have Daniel Kariuki, counseling psychologist and mentor. How are you doing?
I'm fine, James.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Gospel musician Daniel Kamau. Daniel, how are you?
I'm so fine.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
I feel like a lion in the midst of Daniels.
Two Daniels.
Yes. Also in studio with us today from Awakening Minds, we have a relationship coach, Herman Omondi. Herman, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
It's good to have you.
Thank you too.
Na wanaume kwa audience, Bwana asifiwe.
Amen.
Good to have you on the show this evening. I'm very curious. Let me begin with you, Daniel.
Yes.
Why is that the case, that we have more men committing suicide than women? Almost 3/4.
Okay.
Yeah. Why is that the case?
Thank you, James, for the question. Even before I delve into the answer, I want first to describe what suicide is. And this is what we call intentional end of life, or intentionally ending your own life. So it is not by chance. It is intentional.
intentional.
Yes, it
Yeah,
is intentional.
okay.
So what we are talking about is you sit somewhere and internalize in your mind that I want to end my life, whether by hanging, by taking pills, possibly maybe jumping in front of a moving vehicle. So it is more of a mental state than what you call a calamity. Right?
Okay.
So now we are asking about the question of why is it more men than women? One, not because we are in Africa, or you see there's this man mentality that is that spans across every man, however small that man is.
Yeah.
Maybe even if it's a 2-year, 3-year-old boy. I usually say that when we were growing up, and I usually like using this, my mom used to keep telling me that, and I say it in Kiswahili, she used to tell me in Kikuyu that machozi ya mwanaume hurudi kwa tumbo.
Hebu sema na Kikuyu.
Maithori ma mũndũrũme macokaga na nda. And I want to believe that even the audience we have here possibly were also told the same by their parents, or by their mom. Meaning that you as a man, however young you are, you're not supposed to show emotions. You're not supposed to signal defeat.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to show other people that your tears are coming out from your eyes. So what will happen? This boy, from however young, even as young as 2 years, and actually it's the awkward bit is, if those kids are twins, maybe a 2-year-olds, one boy and a girl, you realize that when the boy cries, the mother tells him, you shouldn't cry like a baby. Okay? So this boy from a very tender age learns to hold emotions.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So he'll never be able to get a place whereby he'll be able to express his emotions, because one, there is a societal view of what will Haman say, or what will Joseph say about my inability to hold my emotions.
Yeah.
So this one now grows with the person, to the point that however old you are, even if you are 70, there is what you are taught first. And whoever cultured you taught you to be a strong symbol.
Yeah.
So you'll never be able to get a place whereby you'll be able to speak out what you're handling. So And you see, you are coming into a society whereby every other man you meet, they have also been cultured in the same direction.
Yes.
So you'll find a lot of people who have a lot of held emotions because according to them, it's a taboo to talk about what I'm feeling. Unlike ladies, and I want to use the same scenario, 2-year-old kids, one is a boy, one is a girl. This 2-year-old girl, if she sleeps and falls and screams, the mother does not question her cry.
Even the father.
Even the father.
Daddy to the
Exactly.
rescue.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's the dad who rushes and picks the girl very fast and tells her, oh, come here, mommy, okay? So what have you taught this girl? Is that it's okay to echo out your pain. But for the man, remember, these are 2-year-olds.
Yes, yes.
You have taught this boy, it's shameful to show us your tears. And that's why I've told you, I was told from as young as that age that my tears should go back to the stomach. But what I keep reminding my mom, I usually tell her, when you are telling me that my tears should go back to the stomach, you never told me how much the stomach can contain.
Tumbo imejaa.
Tumbo itafika mahali itajaa.
Yes.
So when the stomach becomes full, what happens?
Ooh.
Of course, now you'll now see it in actions.
Yes.
That's when you'll see now people acting in a very errant way.
Yeah.
They'll go out there and possibly you are going through pain, but you see you've never been taught how to talk out. You've never been shown this is the person that you can trust. And then you see the element of mistrust also grows.
Okay.
Because the issue of who do I talk to?
Yeah. I'm curious, Herman, is this the reason why as men, when we get together, usually we have to get together around an activity and we'll talk about two things mostly, politics and football.
Yes.
We hardly talk about our emotions, such that we were with somebody yesterday and then tomorrow we hear, jamaa alijirusha, and you're thinking, but silikuwa naye jana tukikula nyama hapa, tukiongea story ya ball. Is that the case, that we shield our emotions so much?
Yeah, I think that is the case. First, as men, see, one thing that we lack a man we can confide to. A man that I can sit to and I tell that man my secrets. Because as men, we are very secure with our secrets. We can't just tell to anyone.
Yeah.
So lack of a man that I can confide to, sometimes it leads to these things because I cannot open up. I cannot speak to someone. I cannot tell you what I am going through. And then there's another thing that Dan has mentioned about to be a man.
Mwanaume ni kujikaza.
Mwanaume ni kujikaza. There's this illusion that we have that we are invisible. That as men, we will live forever.
Yes.
So we are built to be strong. So even the things we are going through, tungangane nazo kama mwanaume, and at the expense of our health. And there's this saying that says that men don't cry, men sweat. Yes. We have been told that we are strong, that we can endure anything, we can maneuver anything as men. And that is not the case. That's why sometimes it leads to us men committing suicide.
Okay.
Because the pressure will become too much.
Yeah.
Then at the end of it all, I have to just take my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's your story, Daniel? Because you've attempted suicide twice. Thank God you didn't succeed. Now you're here with us.
Sure.
What's your story? What drove you to that point?
What I'll start by saying, thank you so much for inviting me here, so as to enlighten a lot of young boys or young men outside there. It was around 2015. By then I was schooling. I was still in high school.
Okay.
It happened I moved from the school I was previously. I was schooling around Muranga. It happened I went to stay with my grandmother, who was oftenly sick. So I could wake up very early because the school was very far, at around 12 to 13 kilometers. So we used to leave early because by 6 we were supposed to be in class, settled, waiting for the preps. So it happened one morning. By then I was in Form 2. It happened one morning. I left home at around 4:50, at almost 5. So we used to walk along this old railway line, and at some point there are valleys.
Yes.
So it used to pass.
Yes.
Yeah. So that morning we used to go picking some other fellows a long way. But by that time, I didn't get any of them. They had already left. I was late a little bit.
Yeah.
So it happened, as a man, as we always say, you need to be strong.
Yes.
I couldn't miss school because I have not found my friends. So I said I will just
Kinda
walk
too.
a little by a little on my way to school. So now, alongside that railway line, it was too dark because at around 5 it has not yet.
Yes.
There was no light yet. So alongside, close to that valley, some men just came across. 2 men approached from the front, one from behind. So this one from behind just held me from the back, and he asked me not to scream, nor to say anything. By that time, what I remember is he had a red cloth. So he just, and like I lost my consciousness. So I was totally not me. So they did what they wanted because they dragged me. Now alongside that valley, kuna mteremko hapo. So they dragged me to that. So that you couldn't see me when you are on the railway line. You can't see me. So they went, they raped me alongside that place. Then they left me there. So at around 6:20, I gained my conscious back. Yeah. So when I woke up, my bag was a little bit far, but I had my clothes on, my trouser, my school trouser, and it was a little bit rainy. So they were muddy. I woke up, dressed up with my pain, took my bag and started. Then I thought of not going to school because I had a lot of pain. And it was remaining almost 10 kilometers, so there was a big gap.
Yeah.
So I couldn't walk to school. Nilisikia siwezi fika. So I decided to go back home where I was living with my own grandma. Yeah. That night I hadn't slept because she was asthmatic. She passed me. She rest in peace. She was asthmatic, so I had spent the night on.
Yeah.
So when I went back home, I went direct to my room, never went to her. But later on the day, she realized I was around. I couldn't speak anything because she left like I was preparing to school, then I'm back home. She couldn't understand the scenario. So when she tried asking me what was wrong, I couldn't tell her. So I struggled with my pain. Never informed anyone at that first day. The second day, I was still home. And as usual, when you are home, there are those tasks you will do. She called me and asked me to go and look for some, and gather some pasture outside there to feed the cows.
Feed the cows,
Yeah. So when I was outside there, that's when I thought of, because I already had a gunia and that rope to tie the whatever. I thought of, now this is the time, because I felt like it was too much on me. I had failed my parents, my grandma. What if some other men came to the know of that? They would just be, I would look like I'm a different person from them. So I thought of committing suicide by then. But when I was at the top, I had already tied the rope, did the knot, so I was almost putting it on. That's when I heard a voice. And like my grandma, the grandmother I used to stay with, like she was crying from behind telling me that in Kikuyu, Kamau Kamau mwana wakwa, ndugeke uguo tondu like Kamau Kamau my son, don't do that, because whenever your parent will question me, what will I say? Yeah. So I felt like it was bitter.
But was she there, or was it just a voice you heard?
It was a voice, not her. Like, maybe it was Holy Spirit, I don't know.
Yeah.
I heard like she was talking, crying. So I decided to calm down, gather the pasture, then went back home. That was the first attempt. Secondary, now after the third day, this second day, then that night, almost now the third day, I decided to tell one of my friends, and he told me, what you would do, it is even too late. You are supposed to tell me early, I would have helped. You are supposed to go to the hospital so that you get medication to prevent some HIV and other Yeah, so that day, when he told me so, I decided to go to the hospital the following day.
Okay.
And it was already the third day.
Yeah.
So I went to Camberwa, that's a dispensary close to our home, where I got a doctor there. Then he referred me. He was called Dr. Kabiru. He referred me to Murang'a General, level 5. I went there. I got a very nice doctor. He worked on me. Then he gave me some peps, I think, to prevent that.
Okay.
If in case of HIV,
Yeah.
I couldn't transmit it. So when I went back home that day, remember, I haven't yet shared to any of my family members.
Yeah.
None knew. So, but that day, when I went to Murang'a, that doctor told me that it is a must. I have to have one confidant to at least open up so that in case of anything, I can talk to that person.
Yeah.
And when he asked me who was close to me, I said my mom. My mom was the very closest friend of mine by then. So my mom was called. Then she was given the narration. She came to the hospital. I was treated when she was there. Then I went back to my grandma's place. On that night, I remember I took an overdose of those peps.
Intentionally?
Intentionally. Yeah, because I felt it was too much. By then, I couldn't think anything but death. So, and I decided to sleep, just not to wake up.
Yeah.
But luckily, the following day, I woke up at around 12. It was already too late. I prolonged the sleep, but I still woke up. I started questioning God, but what I said, I won't try it again, since it is like God doesn't want me to die by that time.
Yeah.
So that's when my depression became more. I didn't attempt any other time to take away my life, but I used to struggle a lot because by then I was schooling. I had already left school. Now it was almost a week I hadn't gone back. The principal is consulting the friends where I am.
Yeah.
I'm not speaking out. My mom is there back at home. She's still insisting that I should go back to school, but me, I felt I was not okay at all.
You know, sometimes when situations like this happen, it's easy to tell somebody to, move on.
Yes.
You're still alive, you have so much to be grateful for, but we may not understand what somebody is going through mentally that would even drive him to a place where he says, I'd rather be dead than go through this pain.
Yes.
Because the pain he's talking about is not just the physical pain he experienced.
Yeah.
There's also another deeper pain,
The trauma.
that he's talking about. Yeah. So I don't know what you can say about his story.
I'm really saddened by the story, and I'm really sorry that you actually had to go through that. Counseling is, I appreciate that nowadays counseling is becoming more embraced.
Yes.
But I want to believe that during those times when this was happening to him, counseling was just a foreign word to many people. Even today, we still have people who ask you, Daniel, tell me that you're a counselor.
Yeah.
So somebody will come and sit in front of you and they tell you their problems. But listening to the narration from Daniel tells you the kind of trauma that he internalized over that particular time. Because this is a street child who has possibly been brought up with a lot of morals. Then calamity strikes at you, not because of your mistake.
Yeah.
He didn't go looking for trouble. Trouble just found him.
Trouble found him.
So now, how do you get to the place of believing in yourself again and not even questioning yourself that I am the one who brought this upon me? So this one is dealt with as a process of in handling loss, because one, this is the loss of his body he's been sodomized. That's what he's saying. Yeah? So the process of being sodomized, you see, it's not intentional. And it's not, they didn't agree that this is how it's going to be happening. Eh? So what has happened is that, one, you have tortured his mind.
Yeah.
So how does he come out from the feeling of shame and guilt upon himself? That's what we need to address.
Yeah.
And to the place that whereby this person can appreciate that, fine, I need first to forgive myself. Before I even forgive the perpetrators, let me first forgive myself because I have a life to lead.
Yeah.
So that's where many people fail.
Okay.
So what we do is, in many instances, one, let somebody go through counseling so that they may be able to first forgive themselves. Number two, they be able to identify that, fine, even if I was in a place whereby I was so enticing, if it was a situation whereby maybe somebody took themselves into a dangerous place and something bad happened, it's all about being able to accept self.
Okay.
That's the most important. Number two, the moment you are able to accept yourself, you appreciate who you are. And you are not defined by the situations and the circumstances that are surrounding your life at that particular time.
Yeah.
Remember what we said, the here and now moment.
Yes.
When you're talking about, in psychoanalysis, we usually talk about the issue of the id, ego, and the superego. So Daniel has found himself in a place whereby a situation has found him, and he's the victim of somebody who used the id, the here and now moment, whereby they did not have time to reason.
Yes.
They wanted to do the act there and then. So he has to internalize the pain himself.
Okay.
And it is now, you're talking about the physical pain, and now also the mental pain. And can actually assure you that it's more suicide among the risk factors that usually lead to suicide. Emotional pain is higher than the physical pain.
The physical pain.
Okay? So because the emotional pain
Yes.
is not describable, maybe the way you'd tell somebody, and we see I have a cut here, and somebody can see the cut. So he's dealing with more internal pain, which can lead into even, he's mentioned about having gotten to a level of depression. It's because, one, there is also the fear of who will I tell and will trust my story. Okay?
Yes.
You remember this, he's living with the grandmother, whom I'm sure the grandmother possibly has also, is not the kind of the ones that we are having nowadays who are more understanding. So he'll possibly question him a few, what were you doing? Why didn't you?
And even the grandmother is sickly.
Exactly. And
so
the grandmother is also sickly. Yes, umeongezea mzigo. So he has the fear of nitamwambia akufe, you know. So imagine that, now internalizing that, and being able now to move beyond that. Well, thank God that he's here to present the case in the show.
To share his story.
Because it would have been something different.
Very, very true.
Yes.
You know, Haman, there's something he said which takes me back to where the conversation had begun. His doctor told him, you need to find at least one person
Confide in.
that you can confide in. I think it was the last episode or several episodes ago, we were talking about male friendships, that our friendships need to be deeper than soccer and politics. And nyamachoma. You know, as men, we hardly share our fears. We hardly share, you know, our regrets. Because I'm just thinking, if I was in his position, which man in my life would I be able to talk to? It is hard.
Yes.
It is hard. What do we do about that? That we can be naked as men before each other, naked emotionally, naked spiritually, and remove this macho facade that we have embraced so that we can find solutions and healing in some of these areas in our lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
First of all, I think as men, we need to have three friends around us. The one who is below me, the one who is we are on the same level, and the one who is above me. Now, the one who is below me, at least that person will give me motivation to be better because he's looking up to me. I am a role model to that person. So I'll try as much as I can to be a good example to that person. Now, the person who are on the same level, this person helps me to be vulnerable. I can say anything to that person.
Yes.
When I am down, when I'm going through stuff, I can open myself to that person. And then the person who is above me, of course, when I am diverting, that person will correct him. Will call me out and say that, Haman, this where you are heading is not the right place. This is the right direction. So we need to have those three friends. And unfortunately for us men, normally we don't have those friends.
Yeah.
Because even us, we fear sharing our secrets.
Yes.
Now even finding that one confidant, sometimes can be a bit difficult.
Yeah.
So it is upon us as men to take that as a challenge. I need to look for this part that I can open up to, I can talk to. Yes. Because at the end of the day, these things will bottle up as stress, you know, and at the end of the day, we'll just take our lives.
Very, very true.
Yes.
I'm very curious, Daniel, when you were going through your phase of depression, did anyone know? Was it possible for someone to just look at you and think, hey, Buddha, uko sawa kweli? Or did you just seem okay? Because I find sometimes that's also another area where it's a struggle.
What I will say is, during that time, yeah, we could notice.
Okay.
Because at most of the time, you could talk to me, but I'm not there.
Uh-huh.
Physically, I'm there with you, but I'm not.
But you're not.
Mentally, I'm not there.
Yeah.
Because I used to think a lot. Even my mom, there was a time, one time we went, we were heading to the hospital because I was asked to go through counseling. As he said,
Yeah.
I was supposed to go for several counseling sessions. So at one time, he left me, and we were to meet in town because she was coming from home, I was coming from my grandma's place. So at this time, I was just dropped in town. Then as I was walking, I couldn't even look at. Well, however we say, you look left, look right,
Yes,
then you
cross,
the road.
yeah.
I was not there. So it happened, I was almost knocked
Wow.
down. But my mom was too fast. She just pushed me ahead. So again, even when I went back to school, I became like, I feared men. I hated men passionately. I couldn't walk around with even those boys we used to school
Yeah.
with. I used to be with girls, always. And even at some moment, I used to hate my class teacher because he was a man. And sometimes he would question me why I was home for a long time.
Yeah.
So I used to think like he's troubling me a lot. But the principal at some point, he noticed and he happened to call my mom to school. Then he asked my mom what was happening because he could notice that something was wrong.
Yeah.
And my mom narrated the story.
Yeah.
My principal became so caring, and he just became like a brother to me, or a father. Let me say a father, more so a father.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I would want us to, we'll take a short break, but after the break, I want us to talk about, are there telltale signs that we need to look out for? Are there signs that can pinpoint someone to be suicidal? And if we know someone is suicidal within our circles,
Yes.
what can we do to assist them?
Okay.
Yes, and also people who have attempted suicide,
Yes.
what kind of help should they be given?
Okay.
Yeah. Aya, wanaume, we are talking about men and suicide. If you have any questions for us today or a comment, maybe you are one of those people who've gone through a situation like Daniel is sharing and it led you to a place where you actually attempted to commit suicide. What's your story? We would love to hear from you. 20316 SMS line, WhatsApp number 0786 316 316. We'll take a short break. Kama kawaida, ukimbie, ukunywe kopo la maji, alafu urudi for the second part of this conversation. You're watching Man Up on Family TV.
Tomorrow on This Is My Story, he was there, done that.
When I go, I give my mom money. He don't ask me anything. You know, my dad became my good supporter when I'm doing the crime.
Lost in the bottomless pit, mercy and grace called him out.
I was deserved to be killed, but God was so faithful.
Don't miss out on this intriguing testimony on This Is My Story tomorrow at 8:30 p.m.
Welcome back to Man Up. Tonight we are talking about a very sensitive topic, men and suicide. And we have a studio audience and we have some questions we want to take from our studio audience even as we get to the second part of this conversation. So I'll ask, if you have the mic, tell us your name and ask your question.
I'm Stephen Macharia, and I'm very happy to be here. My question is Daniel the counselor, asking the question about whether there is any solution of whereby men can be taking men can be able to emphasize their problems so that they cannot be accumulating those problems to come out with that result just because the result is only one, men committing suicide because of having too much problem in them without any talk. Another question is this suicidal sort of a generation curse just because I have a family in our home whereby the uncle committed suicide, the big brother committed suicide, And another guy we are schooling with also committed suicide. Is it also part of generation curse?
Yes, I would want to first respond to the first question that you asked. You said your name is Stephen. Yeah, thank you. I want to respond by saying this. As a society, we need to get to the space of understanding that finding a safe space whereby we can talk about our problems is our personal initiative. Because we are in setups whereby, like, even in churches, men are being encouraged to come in groups and possibly form friendships whereby they can be able to echo out what they are dealing with. But it is still with a lot of struggle that men are not coming out and possibly talking about any challenges that they are dealing. But as I said when we were starting the show, it's all about the culturalization process that we went through.
Yeah.
Who taught you to be a man? And what were you taught when you are being told a man does? Okay? Who taught you when you are in pain what you're supposed to do? Some people are taught that if you're in pain, let's go to the pub. I'll buy you drinks. Yeah. And actually, what I've actually noticed is many men, and even if you possibly look at the cycle of the friends that you have, there's something Haman said about having 3 types of people that are in your life. Somebody whom you can easily confide in, somebody who looks up to you, and somebody you also look up to. So because the moment you have such kind of a team of people, or the kind of people in your life, they will be able to guide you in the right direction. But what I would want to say is, let's be definite in looking at who understands me as the man. The kind of friends that I have. And actually, I was actually impressed when James was saying that he has looked at the people in his life whom he can confide in, and possibly maybe, I don't know that you have any, but you are not alone. It is with most of us whereby you are sometimes sit back and ask yourself, hiya, in case I'm caught in a situation right now, who can I call? Is it my brother? Is it my cousin? Is it my nephew? Is it my neighbor? And then you realize that even if you get to call those people, your relationship is very limited.
Yes.
There is something they don't know about you. But you'd still feel, I don't want to come out strong and possibly talk about who I am fully because I will expose myself.
Yeah.
So even if you're opening up to bits. Kidogo kidogo ile, I know Daniel is a psychologist. But beyond there, you don't know anything. Yet, this is your friend. Okay? So my challenge to men tonight is to remind them, as you are looking at the people that you have in your life, let's ask ourselves, who is it that I can go to and share out my problems with? If there isn't, please start looking for someone. Now, the question number 2, I don't know if I've answered the right question.
Yes.
Then the second question, you're asking about whether the element of suicide is generational.
Yeah.
I'll say yes and no. But we usually are told among the risk factors that are leading to suicide is the family history. So in a way, you can be able to break the history in the family. And unfortunately, you've had some people or some pastors, and I'm not attacking any pastor, you heard of people saying breaking generational curses. Among them being issues to do with suicide. It is genetical, yes. But does it have to continue? You have to be very conscious because it does not mean that in every home whereby suicide ever happened before, that everybody has to fall in the lineage of suicide.
Yeah.
It also doesn't mean that in a family whereby suicide has never occurred, that nobody will ever die out of suicide. It is all about a person, irrespective of whether you come from the family that has a generational history of committing suicide. So if you come from such a family, you need to be very careful not to be drawn into the lineage of the family. Yes, it happens, but people are able to break when you are able to individuate yourself. And when I'm talking about being individuated, it means I am Daniel, I am not my father.
Yeah.
I'm not like, if I'm able to teach myself how to be strong, be able to identify the risk factors that can lead me to suicide. How do I deal with issues? How do I accept help? Because many of us don't ask for help. So that we may not lead ourselves into the belief that everybody who dies is because their family, there was their grandfather committed suicide, the brother to the grandfather committed suicide. So I'm also in the risk of committing the same suicide. It's all about being able to identify yourself and create your own stronghold.
I like that.
Yes.
Second question.
I have one question. As I have listened to the first program where we have been here, I'm asking myself this question. A psychologist and a pastor, should they be relating each and every time? Because there are problems that men do have. And the pastor is also telling me and preaching to me that I should be a responsible person.
Yes.
Now, responsibilities are there, and there are also struggles, and there are also problems that arises when you are fulfilling your responsibilities. Now, to you, a psychologist, what level of carrying the responsibilities reach and turns now there are problems that you need now a psychologist?
I want to respond and say this. Counseling and, or should I say spirituality, and also that now brings about the element of religion and psychology play hand in hand.
Very true.
Because for you to be able to live a healthy life, a Christian life, you have to be mentally stable. Okay? But unfortunately, in many areas and many instances, you have found people who have divergent views in terms of what the Bible talks about. Because we usually use the Bible as our guide.
Yeah.
Right? And so we also have to be very careful not to also misuse what the Bible says. Because I have a friend who is a reverend who keeps saying that the Bible is like a forest. You get into the forest and come out with the best stick that you want. So that is how the Bible has also been misused, whereby I'll quote what I feel is helping me, but I'll not read below what I want people to understand.
Yeah.
It's like getting into a forest, unasema ule mti ndio nataka, unakata na unachomoka, unachomoka nayo.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, as being a Christian also requires a lot of wisdom in terms of you don't want to demonize people who are not as believing as you. Because in the belief of the Bible, you also want to be at a space whereby you are conscious of what the Bible says and what you're also practicing. So when now psychology comes in, is to try and put the balance. And look at, for instance, and allow me to use what we are currently dealing with right now, the Shakahola issues. Whereby we are looking at people who are learned, but have decided to listen to a coiled teaching about the same Bible that talks about Jesus saves.
Yeah.
Right? So then you ask yourself, who is at fault? Is the pastor at fault? Somebody will say yes, the other one will say no. Then you ask yourself, are the people at fault? Because you'd ask yourself, at what people are they at fault? Because they were following a doctrine which is derived from the Bible. Okay? So now this is now whereby you now invite psychologists to tell them, now, my friend, use your head. Okay? Whereby, much as the Bible says this, what does your knowledge of the Bible? Because at the end of the day, you want to understand. If I read you the Bible and tell you to remove your shoes, because Moses told.
Yes. Okay. The ground you're stepping on is holy.
Is a holy ground. So if I tell you step on here and remove your shoes, and I pick your shoes and run out, will you still hold to the belief that Daniel said? Okay? So you have to bring the element of now what we call soberness in being able to understand this is what the Bible says. But now this is whom I am, and this is what I have to bring in the sense of my own value. So in psychology, psychology is all about the study of the mind, right? And how the mind operates. And all the other aspects about our life revolves around our mind.
Yeah.
So if you read the Bible and be able to understand it, it's because you have a sober mind. So it's always good. I've had a challenge with people who are pastors who have had a fight against people in the counseling profession. Or people who commercialize the business of psychology or counseling because they now have managed to tie the mind of the people, because whatever I'll tell you, you'll follow, because I'm a psychologist. Yes. I don't know if I've answered your question the right way.
I think maybe to add to that, let me remove my presenter cape and put on my pastor's cape. Yeah. I think what you think about it, man is a spirit, soul, and a body. You know, and when we have medical issues with our body, no question about it, we go to a doctor. Yeah, you can come to church, we will pray with you, but we will also advise you to seek medical help. Yeah, because a doctor is somebody who has the knowledge of how the body functions. This body, they've gotten it, this knowledge, they've gotten it from God, because it is God who created this body, and God understands how this body functions. And the same with the mind. There's a way the mind functions. People are sick in the mind. There are people who've studied the mind and they understand. You know, and so for me, I think, and I've had this conversation with several people in your field, and we all agree that we need to work hand in hand, because both go hand in hand. Yeah, they have to go hand in hand. We are not competing. All of us are after the same thing, to make sure that our people find help. You know, and what you're telling them is not contrary to what the Word of God is saying. And I think that's very important, because sometimes we wait until it's too late. You know, yeah, because if taking Daniel's example, if Daniel came to me and we prayed about it, because that's where we'll end up, we'll pray about the issue. But after praying about the issue, I would still advise him to find somebody to sit down with, because I'm not trained in that area, to help him figure out what's going on in his mind. Because at the end of the day, it is the mind that drives the body. If the mind is messed up, everything else will be messed up. And that's why the Bible says that we should not be conformed any longer to the patterns of this world, but we should be transformed by the renewing of the mind. So I believe the two go together. Last question, and then we can get into something I needed us to talk about before we finish, because we have to talk about solutions. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Pastor Gideon. First of all, I want to thank the panel, as well as thank Mr. Daniel, who has come out actually strongly to be a help to many, because his case is just a helping hand to many. My question to David, the psychologist, is to what extent or where does their work start from as far as dealing with such issues is concerned? Because I tend to see there's some kind of disconnect. And in this case, actually, I'm seeing, my brother talked of 3 friends that everyone should have. Friends whom maybe you can quickly rush to them in case of 1, 2, 3. I'm also seeing other friends, different from individuals. And these friends are an institution, the society, and the spiritual family. I don't know whether David was connected to a church or to a spiritual father whom he could run quickly, because a spiritual father is always very close, very open, and is someone you can walk with in any kind of a journey. So in our schools, we have religious education, whereby the religious kind of life, even not from our churches, but even in our schools, we have it there. What about the psychologists? Can we afford to find them in schools, whereby at least as an institution, we are prepared from the early stages that when you come across this situation, you have a helping hand? Thank you.
A good question there. And thank you for highlighting that. And if you look at even where we grew, from the various places we've come from, you realize that there are institutions that have what we call the guidance and counseling. Yeah? But the traditional belief is that they are usually run by teachers, not professionals. And if you look back, possibly the person or the teacher who used to man the department was the one who was said to be saved.
Yeah.
The one who seemed to be well-mannered, yeah? And the one who seemed to have their life figured out.
Yeah.
But the question is, you cannot put the maths teacher to be the guidance and counseling the head of department, yeah?
Yeah.
Because in many instances, the relationship between the students and the teachers was always conflicted. And unlike now today when we are seeing a slight change because of the private schools that now have come in whereby a relationship has been established. A proposal has been raised to the government whereby every institution should have a qualified counselor.
Okay.
But it has not been passed yet. And so this is a work in progress. So we also await to see when the government will eventually roll it out, whereby every learning institution should have its own counselor. Number two, we are reminding parents to be conscious, because most of us here possibly learned to be who we are through self-discovery.
Yeah, self-discovery, yeah.
Nobody took you to even a counselor.
Yeah.
Even if it's, I'm only picking very few instances
Very true.
whereby your parent was even conscious enough even to take you to a counselor and possibly be dealt with.
And
It
usually
was through discipline.
And usually it's a crisis that is taking you to that kind
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereby, and for instance, maybe even those times when a small child would threaten with committing suicide,
Yeah.
you are disciplined. You are given a proper beating,
yeah.
whereby, because they don't understand what this person is thinking about, talking about. So counseling does not define the age. It can start from as young as 3-4 years, as long as the child can be able to understand.
Yeah.
Because initially what we do in children counseling, there's something you call art and play therapy, whereby you'll ask a 3-year-old child or a 4-year-old child to describe what they are feeling through drawings. You'll give them a basket full of sand with some toys. And how that child behaves, you realize whether this child has a problem or not. So if you are conscious enough, it's supposed to start as early. So there is no definite age, to answer your question. And then we now get to the space of now the schools. I have answered that, whereby we are saying the government is yet to roll out the program whereby every institution should have a qualified counselor. But also the other thing that is also happening, and it's also a great initiative, I do it myself. I do what we call basic counseling training to volunteers, people as a volunteer, to people who are interested in the course. Whereby somebody will come and tell, okay, maybe even in church organizations, whereby they are like, we would want to do this basic counseling course, whereby you do maybe 6 sessions, and you teach about the basic counseling, so that you may give these people the basis. Ndio wakati mtu anaenda kufanya counseling, you don't just do it
kienyeji.
Like kienyeji, like, so that you may have a foundation of where do I start and where do I finish.
Okay.
Sawa.
Okay. Haman, maybe let me rope you back into this conversation, returning the focus to the men. I don't know, are there some telltale signs that maybe you can see in somebody's life that would point to the fact that this man may actually be suicidal? Because we are talking about men, and we've talked about having close relationships. You know, so in the midst of our arsenal and politics, are there some things you can see in somebody that should make you push further to find out if this person is really okay?
I think there are. Like, I can use this example. If someone is crying for help, that has taken too long. Okay, in this context, I mean, this person all of a sudden changes. He starts to drink abnormally. He was not drinking that way, but nowadays he drinks too much. If the person withdraws, you know, this person used to socialize with people, all of a sudden he keeps to himself. He doesn't talk to people. He doesn't want to open up, you know. If a person starts becoming angry, all these are cries for help. This person is crying for help. Until it takes us someone to be very keen, to be very cautious, to be able to tell that indeed this guy is crying for help.
Yeah.
So even us as men, we are supposed to be awake, you know. My friends, you know, like I have a case study, a client. You know, this client all of a sudden decided to develop some tendency which he didn't have, you know. Like the ones I've said, he used to drink. Now he started drinking a lot. He started pulling back. He doesn't talk to people. This person was going through a lot in his marriage.
Yeah.
But he was not talking. He didn't come out to, you know, express, to say what he was going through. So as a result of all this, he decided to pull back, started to drink a lot, he became even more angrier, you know, the anger grew.
Yes.
So these are the tendencies, these are the signs you can tell, yeah, that this person is crying for help. And yeah, as men, we need to be very alert.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Anything to add to that?
I'm only adding up to what Herman has said. Aspects of depression is a great indicator whereby somebody gets to the space of whereby they want to just be alone.
Yeah.
They become a loner. At times you'll hear people talking about suicide. Possibly maybe somebody talking about, you know, life is too difficult.
Yes.
I think
Afadhali
nikiwa. You'll actually hear somebody say, if I wasn't alive, I wouldn't be dealing with this. That's a communication. Okay? And you will also look at people who have, if you are keen enough, maybe we have the internet right now, whereby you realize the kind of things somebody is watching is relating to death.
Ooh.
Okay, especially that's how actually we even pick for the young children, especially like the teenagers and everything, whereby you are able to pick what have they. If parents are careful enough, when your child has withdrawn, and you are able to monitor possibly what they are picking from the internet, you can tell when somebody is. If you're able to dig from, if you have a recorded history, or maybe to dig to extract the history of what this person is watching, maybe 10 ways to die. Yeah, there are quite a number of things. Maybe you might find that person possibly Googling or maybe searching information about a certain drug.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things. There are quite a number of signs that are visible or possibly that can be able to be picked. But those are the main highlighters that we can possibly mention.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. No, you mentioned about your head teacher and how after he understood what had happened to you, he became very intentional and very close to you. Would you say he was an important person in your journey and in your healing process?
I would say so, since by the time I was going through depression, remember at home, I don't have someone close to me, someone who would talk to me. As I said, my grandma used to be so sick, and I thought when I would tell her about this story, she would be more stressed, and maybe she would get frustrated. So I thought of, I felt at some point I would miss school, but the principal wouldn't hesitate to call me, even when I was at home, because to a point he asked for my number. He would call me even during weekends. Daniel, how are you doing? We would hang around, even at small instances, like I dropped from how I used to perform. I remember the last time I was in school, I had a B-, but when I came back, I scored a D+. That was that.
A drop.
A big gap of drop. But he still congratulated me despite what. He told me, Daniel, you have did your best. So he used to encourage me. So I felt like I had found shelter in him. So, and during break times, he would call me in his office. We take tea together.
Wow.
So he showed me like I was not less a person. So that helped me in healing.
Okay.
Then my mom was also so close.
Okay.
She would ask me how I'm faring, how I am. When I'm home, sometimes she would ask me just to go home. Now I'm at home. I would go, we hang around with her, talk a lot. Yeah, so that's how it helped me at some, and then counseling. Yeah, I used to go for counseling. The principal would grant me permission to go. Yeah.
Okay. Lastly, because we have run out of time, so I have somebody who reaches out to me, or I have a friend, and some of the tendencies we have looked at, I can see them in their life.
Yes.
Yeah. Ujamaa amechange. Tangu lose job, maisha yake sijui mikoaje. He doesn't want to hook up anymore. He's consistently going for the bottle. What do I do? How do I give them help?
There's always need to dig deeper and possibly ask if this person is a close friend and possibly you know much about them.
Yeah.
There is the digging, whereby ask this person to talk about what they are feeling about. If this fails, recommend possibly something like counseling.
Yeah.
You'll still find people who are resistant to that. possibly you can now try to get out to who is he close to. They're called the necessary people, possibly the necessary other. You might have, maybe, do you have a brother, do you have a relative that you know that you can reach out to? And that way, this person, one thing that I know when somebody is dissociating themselves, one thing is they cannot stand the pressure of being pestered into saying what they're dealing with. At one point, this person will have to open up.
Yeah.
That's my observation. It's not always right.
Yeah.
But when it gets to the point that this person feels, oh, James reached out, asked me out for coffee, or we had lunch, and he was insisting, Daniel, tell me what you're dealing with. Then I fail to open up. Then the next minute, your brother or my cousin, your cousin or your brother calls and says, are you okay? It will get to a point that this person has to open up, because there is the pressure to hold to himself together, because in many instances people are trying to figure out solutions but still confined to the belief that I still will make it without seeking help.
Okay.
So eventually, now when this eventually happens, this person will slowly start warming up to talking. But if it also fails, you can also introduce somebody to a community that possibly would maybe, like, for instance, like a religious institution or a church. If this person still fails, try to get to know what is this that this person can do. If maybe it's a hobby activity that can help them uncling themselves from the belief of I'm okay, I'm holding things together. Men get introduced to the gym.
Yeah.
Okay. Or maybe talk about the hobby activity. What do you love doing? Maybe you're talking about soccer, football. Can we go out and watch football? And when we are watching football, can we go out and have our lunch there as we talk? And maybe when you feel you are now it's now running out of hand, you can now insist on this person now seeing a professional. Yes, in this line.
Okay.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, our time is up, but I pray that in the brief conversation we've had on Man Up this evening, that you've been able to gain some information. If you are having suicidal tendencies and thoughts, don't keep them to yourself. Please reach out for help. Hii mambo ya wanaume wanajikaza kisabuni, sabuni imeisha. We don't want to kujikaza kisabuni. Men are dying, and we need to be able to acknowledge that we have feelings, we have emotions, we get disappointed, we get hurt, we get depressed, but it doesn't mean that you have to go down the drain. Reach out to someone. If you don't know who to reach out to, send me a message. 20316 SMS, WhatsApp 0786 316 316. We'll find somebody we can connect you to so that you can find the help that you need. Thank you for watching Man Up. Have a great evening.